Hello and welcome to the program. Now, on Tuesday, April the 24th, 2018, a massive wave of political defections hit the National Assembly with the ruling All Progressives Congress at the receiving end. A total of 52 lawmakers defected from the ruling party, with a majority heading to the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP. The first gale of defection was at the Senate, where 15 lawmakers left from the party. The defection was announced by Senate President Bukola Saraki, who read out a letter written and signed by the defecting senators. Take a listen now to that.
Letter to the Senate President. Dear Senate President, after due consultation with our constituents and stakeholders in our constituency, in proper recognition of Section 681G of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and for the fact of our party, the All Progressives, is hereby majority faction, we hereby inform the Senate that we, the undersigned, Senator Dine Milai Kogi West, Senator Benade Gebas Ganade Benue State, Senator Ibrahim Dambaba Sokoto State, Senator Shaba Lafaji Kwara North, Senator Mohamed Shitu Jigawa, Senator Rafi Ibrahim Kwara South, Senator Unkui Kaduna North, Senator Isa Haman Bauchi Central, Senator Mosura Sumoni Oyo Central, Senator Shoji Akombi Oyo South, Senator Usman Bayo Nafada Gombe North, Senator Musa Kwankoso Kano Central, Senator Nazif Bauchi North, Senator Alenwadi Tejoshu Ogun Central, hereby informed that we don't sign a change in our political affiliation from the All Progressives Congress to the People's Democratic Party. We thank you for your exemplary leadership, as always. Yours sincerely.
Now, hours after that announcement, the APC got another major blow at the House of Representatives as 37 lawmakers defected from the party. 32 of the defected members moved to the People's Democratic Party, PDP, while 4 moved to the African Democratic Congress. Another one left without announcing a party. And by the way, the ADC, that's the African Democratic Congress, of course, is said to have the blessing of the former president of this country, Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, shortly after that, Majority Leader of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, called a joint press conference with all the remaining APC members, where he called on the party leadership now to commence a lawsuit to ensure the defected members do not retain their seats in the House.
Section 68 has addressed this issue. Members on the floor on both sides of the aisle try to interpret this section the way it suits them. But unfortunately, that section has already been interpreted by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. In the case of PDP versus Abegude, who was a member of the House of Representatives. And the meaning of division has been clearly stated by the Supreme Court. And the so-called RAPC that we kept on hearing the chanting today does not fall within the interpretation of the Supreme Court. Therefore, we will be encouraging the party to take the necessary steps, not because we are against our members, but so that we can further continue to entrench democracy. When people elect you on a particular platform to represent them, that seat does not belong to you. That seat belongs to your constituency. So it is important that this position is stated clearly and that we put it to rest.
Also, that dramatic Tuesday, National Chairman of the APC, Adams Oshiomhole, met behind closed doors with President Muhammadu Buhari. Mr. Oshiomhole, of course, emerged from that meeting to address waiting journalists. This is what he had to say.
This party that I am privileged to chair is not worried at all. We are not disturbed. I'm not going to miss my sleep. And we will go in for the campaign. Check the electoral result. You will find that a lot of those who claim to have the camp, on a good day, the vote they got that makes them members of the Senate. Our president got much more vote in their constituency. So we are not fooled at all. You know, the thing going on is that, you have a lot of so-called big masquerades with very little or no electoral value. I've done my best, which I think I needed to do, to give people comfort, if those who claim to be aggrieved, but those who have other hidden agenda that are not negotiable. I am not going to be able to appeal to anyone who expected X level of return and the system is not delivering it in terms of personal returns. I can't solve that. But those who feel that in terms of within the management of the party, they have issues, those ones are on the table, they can be dealt with. But those who have issues under the table, they are beyond me. But let me assure you, I am so happy that over time, water will find its level. Because if you remember what I said when I, in my declaration, the day I formally declared my interest to contest, I said, to be a progressive party means we must be clear that it cannot be a party for everyone. We have to be sure that you subscribe to the values and ideals of a progressive party. If indeed you belong to the extreme right, and you mistakenly find yourself in a progressive party, obviously, that is not where you belong. As soon as you realize that you can't adjust to the requirement of progressive party, which is people-driven, people-based, people-oriented, and you choose to return to the right wing, where you know what the name of the game was, share the money. It's your choice.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has been reacting to all these dramatic developments. In a statement, the president restated his commitment to democratic values and expressed his willingness to work with all members of the National Assembly despite their respective parties. He also restated his commitment to the APC, wishing the defected lawmakers well and noting that the defections will not affect the ruling party. The president's comments were reiterated by the Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Lai Mohammed. The minister, who was speaking after a Federal Executive Council meeting on Wednesday, that was last Wednesday now, said the defections, I should say, were just a part of democratic process.
I think the president has already given a position which we endorse, which is that this is a democracy. People are free to make choices, and that most of the choices that have been made have been occasioned by local, issues. As you all know, all politics is local. Nobody has come out with any specific grievance against Mr. President or even against the government, but everybody is nursing his own political ambition, and in some areas where probably, zoning has been adopted before and it does not favor a particular candidate, he has an issue or other. So really, as far as we're concerned, it's part of a democratic change, and we move on. But I can assure you that the last has not been heard about this.
Now, after that FEC meeting, President Buhari met with some APC senators at the presidential villa in Abuja. Senate President Bukola Saraki was, however, conspicuously absent at that meeting, which also included the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Adams Oshiomhole. And of course, surprisingly, one of the senators, Lanre Tejuosho, who had earlier defected, attended the meeting, saying he had changed his mind. After the meeting, Majority Leader Ahmed Lawan told reporters he is confident that some defected members will return to the party.
I had discussions with some of our colleagues who defected, and they have shown their willingness and interest and readiness to retrace their steps. So we are working very hard, working very round the clock with our national leadership, led by the very hard-working Governor Adams Oshiomhole, to ensure that we re-engage with our colleagues that defected, that we listen, and that we reach some understanding and resolutions that will enable them to come back home very soon. Even the PDP senators, there are some that have shown their readiness to come into the APC fold. And our party at the national level is working very hard to ensure that we engage them and ensure that they are able to come back, to come into the APC and be very good members of the family.
He also maintained that the APC remains the majority party in both the House of Representatives and the Senate.
The Senate APC caucus is 53 in number. followed by the other minority parties. The PDP minority party is the largest minority party with 48 senators, and then the ADC with 2 senators. ABGA has 2 senators, and we have 2 vacant seats which were occupied by APC senators. They are late now. Senators Mustafa Abubakar from Katsina and Senator Mala Alu Wakili from Bauchi of blessed memory.
Now, the party has also been meeting with lawmakers in the House of Representatives. National Chairman Adams Oshomole met the remaining lawmakers at the party secretariat in Abuja. He maintained that the party will not go after defected members who, of course, have chosen not to return.
If we are bonded together on the basis of set of ideas or ideology, it will be difficult for people who subscribe to this ideology to decamp on the basis of not gaining for his pocket, rather than not delivering to the welfare of the Nigerian people. Until we get there, these musical chairs will continue. It will continue. I said the other day, and I believe it, but if you are a man or a woman of honor, you cannot in the morning vomit all of those impurities in your stomach, and then in the afternoon, because you are not getting a buffet, you convert that vomit to a lunch and eat it with your eyes open. You have to be completely bereft of ideas and of anything such as honor to be able to do that and look your people in the face. And I say to those who say they are going to PDP, good, that is where you belong.
The majority leader of the House of Representatives, who led the APC lawmakers to the meeting with the national chairman of the party, Femi Gbajabiamila, said he is confident some of the defectors will find their way back.
We have all seen the euphoria. Yes, I sent to you. The euphoria of the decamping. It has all died down. Even within 24 hours, some are even regretful. We are beginning to see people come back after seeing the handwriting and what that, oh, it came and it went like that. Mr. Chairman, they have left, some people left thinking the pasture was greener on the other side. Some have now come back saying that green pasture is not so green.
Now, it also must be noted that the defections did not end at the National Assembly. Some state lawmakers have also left the party. And, of course, one of such state now would be Benue State, where the governor, too, Samuel Otom, has also rejoined the party. Kwara State Governor Abdul Fattah Ahmed has also hinted he will leave the APC in the coming days. So it remains to be seen what impact this could have for the APC in the 2019 general elections. We may not have seen, of course, the last in the gale of defections we're seeing at the moment. All right, joining me on the program right now to analyze this dramatic events that has been happening in Nigeria is the former Deputy Minority Leader of the Senate, Senator Olorunniyi Mamora. Senator, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Tell me how surprised you are to see this kind of thing, because I'm not very sure that we've ever had this kind of mass defection all in one day.
Well, that is what makes the difference. I mean, and that is what also makes the surprise, according to you. We've had in the past situations where one or two defect, but not this number in one fell swoop in one day. So I'm equally surprised, but not entirely disappointed, because there had been rumblings, there had been the grapevine report suggestive of such an impending defection.
For you, just help us to make sense of this. You know, we've had explanations now. Some people have said, look, some of these people who have defected are basically doing so as to get automatic return ticket, that there are guarantees in those political parties they are defecting to that they're going to get automatic ticket. But for some have come out to say, look, they have that other than their personal gains, if you like, that they have genuine grievances about the way the party, I'm talking about the ruling party now, the APC, is being run.
Well, I think the first issue, as you put across, that of seeking a platform to contest 2019 elections. I think, again, that is in the character, as it were, in the character of our politics and the politicians and the practitioners in the system to jettison, as it were, principles, jettison ideological bent, and just rather be opportunistic in approach. You know, you see, I think political opportunism should not override principles and, of course, ideological belief. You see, I believe, for me, when you become a member of a party, it ordinarily should presuppose that you have certain ideals that you align with in that party. That's what it should be ordinarily. But unfortunately, experience has shown that in our own climb, hardly do people look at such things. You know, they just it's just about where which platform is best for me to achieve my ambition. And yes, I do know that ideological divide may be blurred, so as it were, in our system. But notwithstanding, I still believe that there are certain things that definitely define APC, certain things that define PDP. And so, if you belong to either of these two, you must keep faith, as it were. So that's the first thing. But it will appear to me that that is not really the issue in our own situation. The second thing that you said, which is some people feeling that there are some genuine grievances. Yes, it's quite possible. It could be that way. But then I would expect that in such circumstance, the internal mechanism within the party for conflict resolution should be totally exhausted before one decides to jump ship, if at all it becomes necessary. Because I do know that even the previous leadership of the party started something, and you also recall that even Mr. President did appoint our leader, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as call him, a peacemaker, and he had already started some work in that regard. And I would have thought that those who are genuinely aggrieved ought to have explored that avenue for to express their grievances, and they look for an opportunity within the internal mechanism of the party to get their grievances addressed, rather than jump the ship and move on to another party.
Now, the leadership of your party, because you belong to the APC, the leadership of the party, I'm talking about the chairman of the party, has come out categorically, Adams Oshiomhole, to say that he is not losing sleep over this wave of defections and all of that. But there's no question that this is certainly not good for your party, and that it could be damaging as we move closer to 2019.
Well, I think what the national chairman, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, is saying is that I think he must just have been somehow shocked that even while the conflict resolution was in process, because that's what I will say. It was still in process. It was still an ongoing thing when this announcement of defection came. He probably must have been shocked and maybe a little bit disappointed, kind of. And in the circumstance, I mean, where you don't continue to cry over spilled milk, I think that's what probably informed his own statement. But that is not to say that, because I mean, if it has got to that point, what do? You just have to move on. You salvage what is left, and then, of course, reach out to other members who probably are still weighing their options, and appeal to them to, you know, to toe the party line in terms of getting their grievances resolved. I mean, I would just feel that is what must have informed his own reaction, because at the end of the day, we have to pick the bits and pieces, you know, and move on, irrespective of what happens. But having said that, that is not to say that we are taking anything for granted. No, the party is not taking anything for granted, and you could see that the national chairman has been meeting with various interest groups, you know, members of the National Assembly, Senate, House of Representatives, and other interested groups with a view to assuaging, you know, the grievances where such exist, and particularly genuine ones.
You were once in the National Assembly. I mean, given what we have seen, especially when you look at when the president hosted senators the other day, we saw one or two of the senators who had earlier announced their defection make a return to the APC. Going forward, do you think in the coming days, weeks, and months we could see more of that happen? More of those who have announced their defection now stage a comeback, as in come back to the party, or we could see more APC senators now or lawmakers leave the party?
Well, I can tell you that the political situation in which we find ourselves at this point in time, the situation is such that even Nostradamus, the man who was who was given to prediction, I think it will be difficult for him to predict what happens the next day, you know, the way things are. And again, you know, 24 hours is a long period in politics. You never know what event or events that will happen within 24 hours as to change the permutations and the projections on ground. So my own attitude is wait and see. I know that a lot of things could or might happen as the days go by, especially between now and end of September. A lot of things might happen. So I'm not a Nostradamus as to be able to predict, but I can only say that that's why my own attitude will be wait and see. But I believe that as a party, you know, All Progressives Congress, the attitude of our party is to try and consolidate, to try and reach out to genuinely aggrieved members with a view to assuaging their grievances one way or the other, and keep the party intact. You see, we are moving into an election year, and we cannot afford to just allow things to lie low. We are strategizing, we are talking to our members, we are reaching out, we are you know, retooling, we are rebuilding, so that we will go into 2019 elections in one, as one formidable party. You see, when you look at the situation, we are better off because one, we are the incumbent, we are the one, is a party that is in power, and we are the leave is being extended across to people. So I think it's wait and see situation. Where there could be movement, it's fluid. It's a fluid situation. There could be movement from A to B, from B to A, another.
But let me quickly ask you: do you fear that the APC might lose its majority in the Senate, for instance? Because we know that, yes, it is true, the APC still retains its majority in the Senate, but that majority is very slim. And because of the fluidity of the situation now, things can just change. And if that happens, there's also a chance that the APC, if things go awry, now I'm saying against the APC, there's a chance that the APC could lose its majority. And that would mean you losing the position. I'm talking about the party now losing the position of the majority leader of the Senate.
Well, that is one thing that we are not prepared to do. We are not prepared to lose our majority status in the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Representatives. And so we will do everything possible, to continue to maintain that majority status. It doesn't matter how slim it is. Majority remains majority, even if it's one. And we are confident that that we will continue to maintain that majority status. And of course, like I said earlier on, we're not taking anything for granted. No, I'm not one who will just assume, and because it is not over until it is over. But we'll continue to, through this reaching out that I mentioned earlier on, reaching out, consensus building, pacifying people. Where genuine grievances exist, we'll look at them, and then we'll continue to appeal to our members to stay the course and, of course, support the government that they have all labored to bring to this point in time. And again, I believe that we're all better off as party members and party in power than to seek glories, quote and unquote, in a foreign land, so to speak, because you don't know. It's better in a bird in hand, as they say, is worth more than 1,000 in the bush. Yes, you think you think you're going to get something somewhere, and at the end of the day, you get disappointed. And why not just stay where you are and continue to, make do with what you have within the system? And I think the party is reaching out with a view to sustaining our majority.
Okay, very quickly, sir, let me just ask you this one last question before I let you go. Do you think going forward now, it will be difficult for President Buhari to get his bills or whatever, to get whatever he wants to pass through the National Assembly, that it will be difficult for him to get anything passed in the National Assembly because of, the reconfiguration we now have?
Well, I don't really think so, because at the end of the day, you see, governance is not about an individual. Governance is about the people. And I want to believe that the members of the National Assembly will be patriotic and mature enough as to consider whatever bill or whatever request before these members, and have an objective assessment, within the ambit of what is good for the people. It's not about President Buhari. President Buhari just happens to be the elected president of this country as at this point in time. But governance is about the good of the people. And whatever request that is before the National Assembly, that is, I believe the National Assembly will look at it, the members will look at it objectively and dispassionately, with a view to saying that, oh, this is good for the people, and then they will go ahead to do the needful in terms of approval or in terms of support. So I don't really think so that this is what happens. It will stop. They don't forget the members of the National Assembly that can always stress the first duty is representation. They are representing the people, and it will be in tandem with their representation by way of effective and efficient representation to do the needful under any given circumstance.
All right, Senator, one question I have to ask you, just one more question. The Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives have actually, well, not defected yet, at least have not made it official, even though a lot of people think they are more than halfway gone from the APC. As a former senator, I just wonder, how awkward would it look, for instance, if the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives both defect, officially now to the opposition, and then they retain their seats and their parties are in the minority? How awkward would that be?
Well, I would not really expect that kind of situation to arise, because you see, if all these defections we are talking about, ordinarily, the question would be, are they even legitimate or legal? Are they constitutional? Particularly when you take on board this, Section 69(1)(g) of the Constitution, because there are factors, there are conditions stated under that provision as to make defection legitimate. Because the question remains, has a faction been established even in APC? And seriously, for me, it doesn't seem to me that a faction has been established. So, to that extent, even all the so-called defections can be said to be unconstitutional. Ordinarily, well, I don't know what the court will say. But it doesn't seem to me to be. So that's the first thing. Then secondly, is to say that by the rules of the Senate, and I believe the rules of the House of Representatives as well, there are certain positions that are, expressly by the rules reserved for members of the majority party. So what that means is that if anyone defects to a minority party and is holding a position expressly reserved by the rules for the members of the majority party, that person should just vacate that seat. I mean, that is what the rules, dictate. And in fact, that is what honor also dictates.
I had no doubt. Thank you very much, Senator Mamura, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back to continue the discussion on this issue. Stay with us. On Deji 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country. I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly. God forbid that I go to join that band.
Deji 360, providing clarity to issues.